Hello, at popdoc.com we are making the move to better joint health. My name is David Newman, and for 15 years I was operating on people performing shoulder, knee, and ankle surgery. And it was amazing to see the amount of people with joint damage and suffering from chronic pain. And I know that as we age, we have difficulty healing and recovering. And at popdoc.com we are making the move to better joint health. Today I would like to present a topic, and it's called Embracing Exercise Therapy Technology that allows elders to engage, feel less pain, and stay happy. I'd like to start off by doing some exercise because I think that appropriate exercise can really help people feel less pain, stay independent as possible, and be happy. The first one is active shoulder motion, called Flexion. And this can be done with two hands at the same time or one hand after the other. So as you see in the image, the model is starting it with their hand at their side and reaching gently in front and up to the ceiling. You can get up as high as you can, and once you're up there for 1 or 2 seconds, you can gently return to the starting position. This should occur 4 or 5 times depending on how you feel. If you're doing one arm at a time, you can then switch to the next. If not, we can move on to the next exercise. The second exercise is called active shoulder motion, scapular upward rotation. So as you see from the model, you're starting with the hands out to the side and you're gently moving up to the ceiling, getting up as high as you can, and then coming back down to the starting position. This can be done with 2 hands at once or one at a time, and after you've finished 5 or 6 times, you can return to the starting position and we can move on to the next exercise. With both of these exercises, as you see when you lift your arms up to the ceiling, it also stretches out your rib cage and wakes up those muscles in your chest. We'll now turn to the neck. The next one is active neck motion. And the first we're going to do is flexion and extension. So as you see from the model, you start looking down, you gently look up to this, so you're looking straight ahead, and then gently move up to the ceiling, looking up as high as you can. From directly to the ceiling to directly to the floor is one rotation, and you can do this 4 or 5 times in a slow, controlled fashion, and some gentle pulling and stretching is common, and it should not elicit sharp pain. After 4 or 5 rotations are done, you can move on to the next exercise. And the next exercise is lateral rotation. So essentially, looking at the model, you move looking over your left shoulder as far as you can, and then gently move towards the center and over the right shoulder. This is a gentle range of motion exercise for your neck, and you can repeat a range of this motion 4 or 5 times to help stretch out your neck so you can look over your shoulder more easily. After 4 or 5 times, we can move on to the next exercise. And the next exercise is lateral bending. So essentially, we're looking straight ahead and gently bringing your ear to your shoulder without lifting up your shoulder. And this can be done to one side, gently to the center, and then to the other side. So performing this arc of motion 4 or 5 times will help increase the flexibility in your neck and also wake up those muscles around the neck. A pulling sensation is not uncommon. A stretching or a discomfort is also not uncommon, but there should be no sharp stabbing pain during this sort of exercise. The next one we're going to do is another shoulder motion, in which it's called internal and external rotation with the elbow straight. So either your hand can be at your side or straight in front of you, and you essentially keep your elbow straight and you bring your thumb down as far as you can, and then you gently bring your thumb up as far as you can. So what this is doing is stretching out those muscles and the soft tissues around your shoulder, elbow, and wrist all at the same time. So when you get to the limits of motion, you hold it for about 2 seconds and then return to the other arc of motion. After 4 or 5 times, we can move on to the next exercise. And the next exercise is called passive shoulder motion. This is advanced horizontal adduction. So as you see from the model, this is done one arm at a time. One hand is facing straight ahead, parallel to the floor with your palm facing down. And the other arm or hand is actually pulling the straight arm across your body. It's called a passive motion because the shoulder that's moving is being moved by your other hand. And this is more of a stretch. So once you get there to the end, you can hold it for 5 to 10 seconds and then slowly return to the starting position and do the same thing with the other side. So what this does is stretch out the muscles along the upper back and the shoulder to help keep your shoulder muscles healthy. The next one is called active wrist motion. So I prefer to do this with your forearm resting on a armrest. So your wrist is isolated and you gently just circle your wrist as large a circle as possible without moving your forearm, about 5 times in a counterclockwise direction and then 5 times in a clockwise direction. This can be done one hand at a time or both hands at once. Stretching out the muscles occurs with some flexibility exercises. The wrist flexor stretch is next, and as you see from the model, one hand is facing straight out in front of you with the palm facing up. The other hand is gently pulling on the fingers, stretching out the wrist, and it's actually wringing out the muscles in your forearm. When somebody's got pain along the inside of their elbow, it's because these muscles are being strained, and it is what's called golfer's elbow. So you can hold this stretch for about 5 to 10 seconds and then gently return to the starting position and do the same thing with the other hand. There are muscles on the other side of your arm, and those are the extensor muscles. So we'll now do an extensor stretch. Same sort of thing, arm straight in front of you with the palm facing down, and then your other hand is lowering your fingers to the floor, and that is stretching out the muscles in your forearm. And when those muscles attach to the bone up by the elbow and are painful, that is called tennis elbow. So once you hold this for about 5 to 10 seconds, you can switch and go to the other arm. The triceps are the 3 muscles in the back of your proximal arm, or the arm close to the shoulder in the back. So as you see, in some people with stiff shoulders, it's difficult to do, but it's worth it to try and get there. Bringing your arm up, placing your hand behind your neck. The other hand is at your elbow, and you slowly and gently lean to the side. And as you see in the image, what this is doing is stretching out those muscles in your proximal arm, or the top part of your arm. But as you lean, you also stretch out the muscles on the outside or the sides of your abdomen and thorax. And it helps these muscles stretch out and wake up, essentially. So why care about your musculoskeletal system? Musculoskeletal system, and I know the word musculoskeletal is a big word, and medical terms are essentially big and they can be confusing and even scary. But if you pull the word apart a little bit, it's about muscle for musculo and skeletal, which is having to do with the bones. So the system means it has more than one component and they act together. But the musculoskeletal system provides form, support, stability, and movement to the body. And the musculoskeletal system is important, complex, and fairly large. There are about 206 bones, 360 joints, and the joints are the coming together of 2 or more bones to create motion. There are 126 extremity joints, and those run from your shoulder to your fingertips or from your hip to your toes. The bones of your back are called vertebrae, and there are 33 individual vertebrae and 640 muscles, and the muscles are those structures that move your joints around. So the system is large and complex and very important. What I'd like to do is go through one of the joints, because I think and feel and believe that the joints are the least resilient and most fragile aspects of the musculoskeletal system. So once they're damaged, they don't necessarily want to heal, and if they are to heal, they heal slowly, but the tissues do not regenerate or regrow. So I'd like to go through the articular cartilage and the joint, because it's never too old to understand your body more so you can use it appropriately to try and feel less pain and stay as active and as independent as possible. So in this description, it is a left shoulder socket with the arm bone removed. So we've taken out the arm bone and there's the socket. So the green structure is the articular cartilage, and that's the lining and surface of the bone, and every bone in the body at its end has articular cartilage on it. This is a very unique and delicate structure because there's no nerve supply or blood supply. There are cells that live in the articular cartilage, and they create a rubbery, smooth, sponge-like substance. But these cells need to get nutrition, and since there's no blood supply, no nutrition gets to them unless the joints are moving. Therefore, when they get damaged, they don't heal very well. In addition, there's no nerve supply, so they don't feel pain, and they don't give us any sense of coordination. The tendons are also found around and in the joints, and that is where the muscle attaches to the bone. So it's a white rope-like structure that attaches a muscle to a bone. Ligaments are also rope-like structures, but they attach one bone to another bone. So when you sit there with your arm dangling at your side, it is the ligaments that are supporting your shoulder and giving you stability. This is called static stability when the arm isn't moving. The dynamic stability is achieved through the muscles and tendons. So these small ropes, the ligaments, are important to stabilize the joint when the arm isn't moving. Joints are also made up of bones, and we spoke about them briefly, but those are the calcium-filled rigid structures with collagen in them, and they give us our structure and stability and form. Structural cartilage is a special type of cartilage with no calcium in it, and in the shoulder it's called the labrum, and it's a washer-like structure that deepens the socket, and it also forms as a shock absorber. So when the arm bones rub together, the labrum gives you cushion. In addition, it stimulates the fluid that's in the joint to move around to help feed the cells in the joint. Muscles are also found in around joints, and they're the red meaty structure that attaches to the bone through a tendon. Joints are also made up of a capsule and a lining. So all articular joints or extremity joints have a capsule around them that hold the ball and socket or the joint together. And there's a lining to this capsule. The capsule is a fibrous tissue like a collagen or a spider web type of tissue. And the lining, it has the cells. It also has nerves, blood vessels, and lymphatics in them. So the cells of the lining of the joint are called synovial sites, and they secrete a motor oil type of fluid called synovium. And that's very important because that is what lubricates your joints and helps your joints glide over one another and move. If you don't move your joints, these synovial sites, or these cells, are not stimulated to make fluid, so it's important to keep your joints moving. The nerves are quite important as well because they help give us coordination, like if we want to bring a glass of water to our mouth, but they also tell us if there's damage, and they create inflammation, and so they are the small electrical wires running to and from our brain. The blood vessels, as we spoke about a little bit, the blood brings the nutrients to the joints, and then the lymphatics are more channels of fluid that help take away non-blood-like fluid. In the shoulder there are some unique sacs of cells called bursa, and those help the bones and the muscles glide over one another during motion and activity. So how do these joints function? Well, Lubrication from these synovial sites, or these cells in the lining of the joint, permit easy motion across the bones. And then the surface of the bone, the articular cartilage, is a smooth surface, so the lubrication plus articular cartilage allows you to glide with less friction. And then the brain sends and receives impulses through the nerves. And then the muscles react and we have purposeful action. Whether it's pulling your hand away from a hot stove or drinking a glass of water, your nerves and muscles work in coordination to help the joints function. What do our joints do for us? Well, that's a fairly straightforward question, but they allow movement in its simplest form. But they also allow us to perform daily activity. That could be combing your hair, getting in and out of bed, or putting your clothes on. Performing recreational activities like playing cards, or going for a walk, doing puzzles, gardening, dancing. It also, work and play are activities we do, and our joints are very important to make us be able to work and or play as we live our lives. So when a part of your musculoskeletal system is injured as a result of an accident, illness, aging, or a congenital problem, it can cause pain and affect the other parts of your body. Too many Americans have musculoskeletal problems. As we age, our ability to heal and repair joint damage diminishes. About 3 out of 4 Americans over 65 suffer from musculoskeletal diseases. So it is very common and it can be very disabling. I'm sure that several of you here tonight are feeling pain or have an old injury that never got better. And so it's important to keep your musculoskeletal system healthy, so you need to appropriately use your joints. This will keep you as pain-free and independent as possible. So even if you have an old injury where you're feeling some pain or stiffness, you can still do some appropriate exercise to feel better. So exercise is pretty incredible. These are some of the benefits of exercise. They increase energy, combat chronic disease states like high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, promote productivity, elevate your mood, help you stay active, experience less pain, and has also been shown to lengthen life. So even if you don't exercise now, it's never too late to start, and we offer and believe that appropriate exercise can help you feel better, function better, stay happier, and let you live longer. What I'd like to turn to is some of the qualities of your musculoskeletal system. And I believe that the PopDoc platform increases the quality of your musculoskeletal system. The first one is mobility, and that's achieving and maintaining the ability for joints to easily change position in space, exhibiting a complete or full range of motion. The second quality is called tone, and that's working the muscles to make them firmer, increasing the ability to protect the joint during the micro trauma of life. And the micro trauma of life can be shopping, doing repetitive activities, going for a long walk. Even like carrying your laundry or folding your laundry can be something that taxes your joints as you age. And as I discussed before, since the joints are the most delicate part of your musculoskeletal system, by toning your muscles, you are helping to protect your joints. In addition, if you have soft muscles with no definition and you bang them against the cabinet, you're more likely to get a bigger bruise and create more swelling. So having toned muscles can help you diminish the amount of inflammation you have and to protect your joints. Flexibility is another musculoskeletal quality, and that's permitting the muscles, tendons, and ligaments to have the ability to lengthen without reaching the point of tearing or becoming overstretched. This increases the resistance to traumatic failure. Condition is another quality of your musculoskeletal system that you can work on. And it's about working the muscle to endure daily repetitive tasks without fatigue or risk of damaging the joints. For instance, you may be able to walk 1 block or so, but if you try and walk 10, you might get tired and your joints might start hurting. This is from a lack of conditioning. So by appropriately exercising your joints and your muscles, you can increase the condition and be able to do things for a longer period of time. The last musculoskeletal quality we'll talk about tonight, or today, is to strength. And that's increasing the quality of the muscle fibers so they can create more force. So building strength in your muscles has been shown to be achievable even in an 80-year-old. It's about increasing the resistance across your joints, and that will help build the muscles so they have stronger ability to create force. So at popdoc.com we offer joint preservation activity programs. And I've shown you a few of them already, but essentially for every joint in the body, and these are done in a seated position, so they're very safe, simple, and effective. They are easy to do and safe. What I'd like to do now is turn into some more stretching activities and toning activities, focus more on the low back and the lower extremities. The first one is active lower back motion called seated lateral rotation. So as you're seated, you gently just turn your shoulders, keeping your hips and your buttocks in your chair, and you'll feel a stretch in your lower back. And this is a motion exercise, so once you get to the limits, and a gentle pull is normal and common, you can return to the starting position and gently move to the other side. So that's a full rotation, and once you do that 4 or 5 times, we can move on to the next exercise. So the outside of your hip can increase its flexibility through a Latissimus dorsi stretch, and that's another long word. It's about the muscles that run along the side of your thorax and your rib cage. So as you see in the model, your starting position is just with your hands at your side, and then you gently just bring one above your head and you lean to the one side. And what that does is stretch out your rib cage a little bit, and that's the long muscle that runs down close to your rib cage called your Latissimus dorsi. So since it is a stretch, you can hold it to one side for about 10 to 15 seconds and then return to the starting position and then do it on the other side. The hips are very deep joints that have a lot of muscles around them, and as you age they can become stiff and difficult to move. So this is a difficult stretch, but it is worth it if you can get there. And it's called the Piriformis stretch, which is a muscle that's found deep in your hip joint. And as you see from the model, you start with one foot cross-legged over the other. And there's 2 components to the stretch. One of them is gently pushing down on your knee, that's as she's doing with her right arm in the first picture. The second one is you lean forward a little bit, and that stretches out deep in your buttocks, and you can feel it along the side and the front and back of your hip. And since it is a stretch, you can hold it for 10 or 15 seconds and then slowly return to the starting position and then do it with the other side. So I find this to be a tremendously great stretch, really at any age. And if you can maintain doing this stretch as you age, I think your hips will function a little better. The next hip motion activity is called seated flexion. So as you're seated, you lift up one leg as high as you can, and then once you get to the top and you can't go any further, you hold it for a second or 2 and then slowly return it down to the floor. And you can do this 4 or 5 times with one side. And once you're done, you can do the same thing with the other side. So this simple motion activity, if you do it 10 or 15 times, can really work out those muscles that help move your hip around, and that can make you feel good. So active knee motion, now we'll move to the knee. And this is called terminal knee extension. So you don't start with your foot on the floor, but you start about halfway up to straight. And then you gently just try and bring those toes to the ceiling And once you get there, you hold it for 1 or 2 seconds and then return it back to the starting position. Do that 4 or 5 times on one side, and then you can move to the other side. And the last one we're going to do for today is called active ankle motion pumps and circles. So pumps and circles is really one ankle at a time is better than two, but if you're really strong, you can do both at the same time. Pumps are more like pushing on the gas and then relaxing and bringing your toes up towards your face as far as you can. And that's a full range of motion. You could do that 4 or 5 times. And then as we did for the wrist, it's about making circles with your ankle in one direction for 4 or 5 times and then the other direction. And if you're doing one leg at a time, then you can do the other ankle. Just a note about stretching. When you stretch out the muscles, what you do is you essentially wring them out and you take out all the old blood that has some of the lactic acid and the carbon dioxide, which are normal byproducts of cells in your muscles as they live. And when you wring them out and then relax the stretch, you bring in new blood, so that's bringing new healthy nutrients and materials and oxygen to your muscle cells. So moving the joints, circulate the fluid and feed the cells that line the surface of the bones, the articular cartilage, and then stretching out helps keep those muscles healthy. So by doing this and incorporating it into your day, I believe you will feel better, function better, and have more independence. So I'd like to call it preventive orthopedics, and you can make it part of your life by using popdoc.com. Preventive orthopedics is doing things that are smart for your body and for your joints to help you maintain a healthy, active lifestyle. The exercises and activities we have are easy to use, effective, and they're mobile, meaning they can be brought to your cell phone, desktop, laptop, or computer. It maintains and preserves healthy joint function, keeps you independent and social, and ultimately improves the quality of your life. You can use this about anywhere: community center, living facility, senior center, and about 5 to 7 minutes a day you can positively change your life forever. At popdoc.com, we are making the move to better joint health and firmly believe that healthier joints make happier people. I appreciate you listening today or tonight and encourage you to make the move to better joint health. Thank you.